You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Moses Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The LA Things That Makes Official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show. For 16 years and 2,700 episodes, we're in the Chris Voss Show because we had nothing better to do with our time, and that's how we roll. Today we have an amazing young man on the show. We're talking about his book called The Vegetable Grows and the Lion Roars. My Peace Corps Service by Gary L. Lindberg joining us on the show. I think this is his third appearance on the show. Welcome to the show, Gary. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Chris, and thank you very much for taking time to talk with me about my book, The Vegetable Grows and the Lion Roars, My Peace Corps Service.
There you go. So give us a .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
Where are they going to find me on the internet? GaryRLindberg.com.
There you go. So give us a 30,000 overview of what's inside your book.
Well, the book is a memoir of my service in the Peace Corps in the early 1960s, at the early days of the Peace Corps program created by President John F. Kennedy.
Mm-hmm. There you go. And so this tells us a memoir of those years. How many years were included in this memoir, I guess?
Well, basically 2.5 years. The basic length of service for the Peace Corps is 2 years, which I served, and then I extended an extra half year to finish the school year that I would, because I was working with schools and I wanted to finish the project instead of leaving it in the midstream, so to speak.
Ah, there you go. So give us some of the stories and adventures that you had.
Well, my job in the Peace Corps was to educate primary school children how to grow vegetables more effectively in a tropical climate. It was an answer to the Ivory Coast program, a national program to encourage their children to eat more healthy vegetables, and also to counter the problem that other countries like Nigeria had, where the young people would flee the countryside and go into the villages seeking jobs there where there were no jobs, and that just created a lot of homeless people in the capitals, and the Ivory Coast was trying to prevent that from happening. So while I visited about 60 schools out of from a base in Ganyua, where I'd go out 5 different routes and visit the schools. I would, as I've started, I invited them to join the national program of school gardens, and I would help them to select a site where they could put their garden. And generally, I would advise them not to use a rocky area or a sandy area, because those were not conducive to growing vegetables. And I would maybe make a demonstration how to prepare a planche. A planche is a French word for a 1 meter by 10 meter mound of dirt, where they would dig with a little hoe called a daba, and which has a handle about a foot long and a very small end piece, to, like you see on our hoe. You recognize what our hoes are like, but it would be about half the size of that. And you dig it up, and you straddle the planche, or the area that's going to be the planche, and you start digging from outside the planche, and you keep digging up the ground so that you try to get a mound about 4 or 5 inches high. And then you use that planche, and you're supposed to make the planche perpendicular to the slope of the land, because Cote d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, had very erosive rains, and if you didn't have a planche, the rain would cut through the plants like a hot knife through butter.
Oh,
and
wow.
and it would just dig up all the plants, and so you lose them. But by making a planche, the water would basically flow around the end of the planche and down the slope of the land, and thereby the plants would survive. And we used vegetables. I tried to encourage people to use vegetables that they already liked, okra or manioc or whatever, and try to get them to eat what they really wanted to eat anyway. And so I would visit them, and sometimes I arrived at the time when there was a black mamba snake crawling around in their yard, and the kids were all out there throwing rocks at it, trying to kill it. And sometimes they would. And so sometimes I had to walk through the bush in order to get to the garden. And who knows what would have happened if there were a snake along the way. But generally speaking, no, that wasn't a problem. So that was my main job. And then at summertime, I had to fill the time that school was out with another project. And the first vacation, I worked with some German volunteers and in a construction area, and that wasn't really my skill, and it didn't work out so great. But the second vacation, I helped them start a village garden, and I had to go into the village with a agricultural representative accompanying me, and sit in a small house where all the elders of the village would gather, and then I would explain in French, not in English, but in French, what I wanted them to do. And then the agricultural official would then explain the project and the Yakuba language, which was the language of the village at that place where I was doing the village garden. And and so they eventually agreed, but then they showed me several different locations where they'd put the garden, and I said no, that those weren't appropriate because they were too sandy. And I didn't think that would work. And they said they had 5 locations they wanted to show me. Well, the first 3 I said no, and then they showed me the 4th, and it looked a little sandy, but I said, okay, well, we'll try it out. We'll see what it. I was afraid if I didn't say yes to that then I'd have to say no to the 5th choice, and then I'd lose the project. So anyway, the name of the village was Deoepleu, and the people there were wonderful. I spent 7 days a week, 24 hours a day in the village, sleeping, eating. They would bring me a bucket of warm water. They heat in a nice silver bucket that you could have bought brand new. It was brand new. And that was my shower. I would go into a little hut and put a lot of water on me, and then soap down, and then pour the water over the soap, and that was how I took my shower.
Wow!
And then I ate my food that I prepared with some help from them in the village. So I lived my whole life there, and that's the way it worked out. And there were challenges when I had to increase their activity level, because when they were trying to help me, basically they were taking time away from their life where they had their own fields and their own responsibility to help their family. And so when I was there, I was telling them to stop doing that to help their family, come help the village garden. And that was a challenge.
There you go. Definitely a challenge. So What do you hope people come away with when they read your book? What do you hope that they see and hear?
Well, I hope they understand how wonderful people are and how similar they are to other people,
Mm-hmm.
just like us Americans. They want food, clothing, housing. They want a good life. They want to enjoy dances and fun things too, just like we do. And it's remarkable how similar they are. There is one story and indicating a story.
Mm-hmm.
When I was among one of a number of Peace Corps volunteers who chartered a plane to fly from Lagos, Nigeria to Nairobi, Kenya. And so I went to, I participated in that adventure, and I got to Nairobi. And along with the other volunteers, I didn't really know what I was going to do or where I was going to go. And these girls came up to me, and there were four of them, and said, "We want you to help be part of our group. We're going to go visit all the game reserves." And I said, "Well, I don't know if I should be going with you," but they said, "Well, you know about cars, and you'll be a big help to us." And I said, "Well, I know nothing about cars." They said, "Well, that's okay. You're a guy anyway." So okay, I said, "Okay, I'll do it." So we drove around and we visited Nairobi National Park Reserve. We went to Amboseli Game Reserve, and we went to Serengeti Game Reserve, the big well-known place. And then after we visited Serengeti, we got up in the morning and we started on the main road, which is really a paved road, not a paved road. It was a dirt road, but it was very good. And one of the girls had read something about finding Olduvai Gorge, where the Leakey family found the oldest remains of humans. And so she wanted to go there. The other girls wanted to go there. So I said, "Well, okay." And we did, but I had no map. I had no GPS to tell me where to go. I didn't know where to go. And they didn't know where to go. How are we going to find it? Well, as we drove about 5 miles or so past Serengeti, we saw this little 8x10 sign. It was pointing to the left, and it said Olduvai Gorge. Oh, we don't know any better. So we drive off the main road, drive in the winding road ahead, and end up in the hills a little bit. And the car overheated. And, here I am, the one who's supposed to know about cars. What did I do? I lifted up the radiator, the hood, and then I proceeded to open up the radiator. Well, all the water in the radiator, if you know anything about heat, all spurted out. It was all over the place. So we had no more water in the radiator as a result. So that's what I knew about cars. And excuse me. And so we one of the other girls and I grabbed these 6-ounce Coke bottles that we were drinking along the way and had used up, and we were going to trying to find some water. Well, we walk off in one direction and walk several miles, and excuse me, and we couldn't find any water. We found a sign that said Olduvai Gorge, another 5 miles. Well, I was afraid that if we went 5 miles, we'd never find the car back again. So, and this is after we visited all these game reserves. We got lions and leopards and cheetah, all these animals ready to have dinner. Us. So, what we did is we went back to the car. I went to we saw a herdsman walking his cattle nearby us. We walked up to him, and one of the girls had an English Swahili dictionary. And we didn't know how to pronounce the word water in Swahili. We didn't know if the emphasis went on the first syllable, last syllable, or what. So we said, "Lakwa, lakwa," trying to communicate the word water to him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't react. We repeated it. He didn't react. Finally, he said something about money. And we said, that was with the opening of the negotiation. And he said, money, Lakwa. And I said, no, Lakwa, money. Finally, he agreed and started walking off in the distance. This other girl and I grabbed our Coke bottles and chased after him. We walked for miles and miles. Now it's getting darker. The sun is going down. This is the time the animals come out, including lions and wild dogs and whatever. So we're starting to get nervous. And we walk and walk and walk. And then finally the guy just stops in the middle of nowhere. We finally walk up to him and he's standing over a little mud puddle. You know the 6-ounce Coke bottles are shaped.
Mm-hmm.
And you stick a bottle into a mud puddle and you get some water and a lot of mud.
Hmm.
And we fill up these bottles as much as we can. And then we go back to the car. We paid him the money we promised. And then we pour this water and mud into the radiator. I don't think the radiator was helped by the mud. So I don't think we filled up even half of it. Maybe, I don't even know if we filled up a third of it. Maybe a fourth. So anyway, we decided we're going to drive with that. And so I drive back towards the main road. We go about 5 miles and the car overheats again. Well, I decided I'm not going to stop. I'm going out. I'm not sorry about the car, but I'm driving anyway. And so I get back on the main road and I turn left as in the direction we were going in the first place. And then we see this corral up on the right side on a slope of the land. And we drove off the main road up to that corral and drove on the left side of the circle. And that circle was a thorned fence to protect the herdsmen and their cattle from lions and whatever prey that might, whatever animals might want to prey on their cattle. And we, in our best Swahili again, we don't know whether we're even saying the word right. We say Lakwa, and they motioned for us to go around 180 degrees to the other side. And then they had a portion of the fence that they could open up like a gate. And we walked in and they invited us for dinner. Since we had read books about they like to have blood for their dinner, we decided we didn't want that. We just wanted the water. And so they gave us the water, and it was beautiful, clear blue water. And it was an amazing gift by them. And we understood very clearly that they were giving us life at the expense of their life, because that water was for their cattle to live and for them to live. And they gave that to us. Wow. And so we drove back and stopped at Ngorongoro Crater, another big site there. And that was the end of our adventure.
Yeah. Sounds like an amazing story, amazing journey, amazing memoir. As we go out, give people your final.coms and pitch out on where they can order the book and get in touch with you on the internet.
Well, they can get in touch with me on the internet at my website, GaryRLindberg.com, GaryRLindberg.com. The book is available on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or your favorite online bookstore. And
there you go.
I hope they enjoy it.
I hope they do too. There you go. Well, thank you very much for coming on. We really appreciate it, man.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with me. I appreciate your help and giving me the opportunity.
There you go. Thanks, your audience, for tuning in. Order up his book wherever fine books are sold. It's called The Vegetable Grows and the Lion Roars, My Peace Corps Service by Gary R. Lindberg. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.